Swinbrook House in Oxfordshire, 1932. Two girls are glaring at each other across a room. It's been divided straight down the middle. Fascist images on one side of the line, communist propaganda on the other. On the red side is a feisty 15-year-old called Jessica Mitford. On the fascist side, her 18-year-old sister, Unity Mitford. After the fighting, the two Mitford sisters would snuggle up together and discuss how they'd feel if one of them were ever ordered to execute the other. Unity would later tell her sister how she dreamed of meeting Hitler. Jessica said she was going to run away and become a communist. And you know what? Unity really did become a close personal friend of Adolf Hitler, endlessly sitting at his feet while the Führer stroked her hair. And Jessica really did elope with Winston Churchill's lefty nephew to the Spanish Civil War, later becoming a communist herself. The antics of the Mitfords transfixed Britain in the 30s and have done ever since. They became the pin-up girls for the political madness of those years. In the real world, 99% of the British were much duller. Thank the Lord. For me, more than anything else, the 1930s is symbolised by hats. Podgy politicians in trilby hats, incompetent financiers in top hats, hard-faced manufacturers in bowler hats, and endless streams of the unemployed, their flat caps pulled down tight. Britain's new Prime Minister, Ramsay MacDonald, was, hat-wise, a man for all seasons. Top hat, Homburg, bowler. Bad sign. And yet MacDonald was a remarkable man, a long-haired, youthful agitator who'd helped to found the Labour Party, and who in 1924 became its first Prime Minister for just 9 months. In June 1929, he was elected again.
I can assure you that my idea is going to be to give this country a status in the world based upon the righteousness of its actions.
When the victorious Ramsay MacDonald arrived here at London's King's Cross station, he was greeted by 12,000 people cheering wildly. As he got out of the train, they tried to lift him on their shoulders. One of the journalists wrote that in the slums of the manufacturing towns and the hovels of the countryside, Ramsay MacDonald has become a legendary being, the personification of all that thousands of downtrodden men and women hope and dream and desire. But if we remember 30s Britain for one thing, it's for unemployment. And soon after MacDonald took office, his hopes for a better future were shattered. The stock market crashed, bringing the worst financial collapse the world had up to that point ever seen. By December 1930, unemployment in Britain had reached 2.5 million. In some areas, nearly everyone was out of work. The areas worst affected were in the north of England, Scotland and Wales, where millions of unemployed people eked out their lives on meagre benefits. And this was unemployment which left families really hungry, living in underheated, almost bare houses, and always with the cosh of the means test, waiting for anyone who showed the slightest sign of existing just a little above the breadline. Neighbours would rat on neighbours, and government inspectors quite literally looked inside people's cooking pots to check that they weren't eating the better cuts of meat. A young Lancashire man, Walter Greenwood, was living just this kind of life in a slum called Hankey Park in Salford. Walter Greenwood started work in a pawnbroker's when he was just 13. He never earned more than £2 a week, barely enough to pay the rent. When he was made redundant, he spent 9 months burning up inside with fury at the poverty of his hometown. And then he began to write a novel. He said he wanted to show the tragedy of a lost generation who had been denied the natural hopes and desires of youth.
Morning, Dad.
Morning, Dad. Morning, Mum.
More like afternoon to me.
Oh, give over, Dad.
The best-selling novel was a morality tale following the Hardcastle family as they're torn apart by unemployment.
God, just give me a job. I don't care if it's only half pay.
Their daughter, Sally, played by Deborah Kerr in the 1941 film, is eventually forced into prostitution.
So you go on the loose, would you? And make respectable folks like me and your mother the talk of the neighbourhood.
It's sick I am a codging old clothes to try and make 'em look somewhat like. And it's sick I am a working week after week and seeing nought for it. And it's sick I am of never having nought but what's been in pawn shop and crawling with dirt and vermin. I'm sick of the sight of Hankey Park, I and everybody in it.
You brazen slut! Keep your lying tongue off your mother, do you?
Father.
The gritty dialogue and the realism were totally new to most of its readers. One reviewer said it was a terrible indictment of modern civilization. Capitalism is utterly condemned.
MacDonald, that's the view across the...
Yet Britain's first socialist prime minister seemed to be living in another world.
The only thing we have found to do here thus far, Mr. MacDonald, is to walk over the moors and to get a little trout fishing. And perhaps I can lure you into taking a little of that sometime while you're here.
Yes.
MacDonald seemed hopelessly out of touch already with ordinary people, and he had no obvious solution to what he called the economic blizzard. At the Labour Party conference at Llandudno in 1930, MacDonald suggested that the best solution for the unemployed was to return to the land, where they could till and grow, sow and harvest. Well, it's an idea, I suppose, but a rather more modern solution was coming from another member of the Labour Party. Enter, stage left, the 1930s very own pantomime villain.
We live in a period in which politicians are not very popular. And believe me, you have my sympathy.
Oswald Mosley started as a Tory war hero before discovering socialism and joining Labour. In his spare time, he liked to move among the rich and beautiful, trying it on with almost every female he met.